Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my YouTube channel and podcast. My name is Ampika Pickston, and this is the wonderful Diane Swaine, who I'm also going to call AKA Fairy Godmother.
That's fine.
So we will each week touch on certain topics and give you little bits of tips and exercises like homework that you can implement into your life to enable you to live and be the best version of you. This week we're going to touch on the topic of dealing with negative external influences, whether that might be toxic friends, very toxic family members, or also the external usage that we have of social media and how that makes us feel and how that impacts our lives. So I'm going to talk about my personal experiences of what I had to do in order to be the best version of me, and that was to cut out and remove negative people and negative situations. It's not always easy in everyday life to make sure that you never hit a negative zone, because we're all surrounded by lots of negative external influences, but something that we do have control over is the people that we bring into our lives.
Definitely.
People have some very toxic relationships, and even though that we know that they're toxic, we sometimes don't have the strength to get out of them, but we can recognise that it's not the way we want to live forever. We can make changes, and that's like baby footsteps, what we can start to, once you highlight and you know that that person is no good for you, or it doesn't bring out the best in you, it brings out the worst, it's time to make a change, or it's certainly time to start moving in that direction to make a change. So I've had friends in the past that have been very, very toxic that I've managed to eradicate and remove myself in a nice way. It's just I look at people like planets. We're orbiting around each other at a certain point, and then as the moon and the stars change, we might be orbiting around somebody else, and that's just a fact of life. Just because you start the journey with someone doesn't mean you have to end the journey with someone. So probably the closest person to me that I have no involvement with is my mother. I don't actually have any involvement with either of my parents, but my mother specifically, about 13 years ago, I decided that having her in my life was just of no real benefit. I found the influence of my mother very, very negative. And I say that with love. I don't say that with any anger or malice. That died a long time ago. I have no resentment towards mother whatsoever. I just realised the influence of her in my life was just of no benefit to me. And that sounds like really selfish, doesn't it? Benefit to me. Well, it has got to be a benefit to me, because if someone I find is continually abusing me and taking away the best parts of me, that's not enabling me to live my life to the full. So yes, I've got to be selfish, and if it serves no purpose and I feel that the presence of my mother was nothing but a negative experience, I had to make a decision. And I think it's very hard for us sometimes when we know that something is toxic and we know that something isn't bringing any pleasure or happiness to our lives, to cut that cord. It's the hardest thing to do. But when you finally find the balls to do it, it's a great feeling. Just because we are born into a family like bloodline, or just because we are born into a neighbourhood or a situation, a work environment, doesn't mean that I have to take these people in my life and have to spend time and worry and all the rest of it. I have a choice. We all have a choice in life. And even if you're in a very abusive relationship and you haven't got the strength to get out there and then, at some stage you will. Because we all have choices. No one's conditioned, especially not in the Western world. We've got a lot of help with, social services and with hospitals and people that care and places, environments that we can go and speak to someone and seek help. We don't have to stay in a situation.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's so brave what you say about as well, that it part of, obviously you are talking about your mum and everything, and it's a very brave thing to do that, and that decision you took sounds very adult to me, and it sounds very much that's how you self-care as well, and it's not necessarily being selfish even, is it? It's actually working out who in your life is a negative influence, and as you quite rightly said, that can be friends, family. We can't choose the family that we're born into.
No.
And sometimes, you know, that can be toxic, it can be very negative, which acts as a real drain on us. But people can feel so guilty for letting that go. But if somebody's, it's just like, if you were in a narcissistic relationship or something, hopefully in time you wouldn't choose, because you felt so much of yourself, you wouldn't choose to stay within that. And it's no different with families. If you've got family members who are treating you badly, that's not okay, is it?
No.
You know, and there's only so much that you can take, as though to make you feel like a punch bag, before you say, no, enough is enough. I look after myself, I love myself, and I'm going to value myself, and that's not okay to be treated like that, no matter who it is, like you said, you know.
Gosh, that was like so powerful, wasn't it? Of like looking after yourself, because once we're born, we expect our parents or whoever brings us into the world, or foster parents, to be our guardians, to protect us, to nurture us, to love us, to care for us with the best capability, the best they possibly can. And when you've been let down and that hasn't happened, you then have to be that person yourself. You have to be your own guardian, your own mother, your own father, really nurture and take care of yourself. And I looked at my relationship with my mother and I thought, I can actually do a better job myself and sail this ship alone. And since cutting that tie 13 years ago, I haven't looked back. It wasn't an easy decision to make, but like you say, you just get to a point and I feel free. And whenever you decide, I think, to truly cut that line of separation off, you always do it with love. And that can be very hard for someone who's abused you mentally, physically, sexually, whatever. That's very hard to do it with love. But when you do it with love, you've got closure on it.
Yeah.
I don't separate myself from people where I'm angry and I'm bitter and I'm spewing feathers and I want to speak venomously about them. I know that I've got a lot of issues with my relationship with that person, whereas when I can decide, it's my life, this is my mind, I'm in control of my choices and decisions, I don't need or want that person in my life anymore, because it's very, very destructive. So I'm going to surround that situation with love, and I'm going to literally go off into the sunset and push them away with love. And that is really empowering. And then you know you've got closure and you're not looking over your shoulder while you're still have this line of attachment of anger, animosity, bitterness, constantly looking over your shoulder, constantly talking about situations that you've been in, how that person's made you feel. You're still attaching yourself to that person.
Yeah.
You are still letting the doorway of all that toxic negativity flow into your life and flood my mind.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah.
So it's just so, it's actually, it's talking about going back to that rucksack again. It's unloading the crap from the rucksack and letting it just flow, you know, concentrating on the here and now, what's important. I've done it with friends as well, but I know it sounds really cheesy, it does sound really cheesy, but I have become my own best friend. And
I think that's gorgeous, honestly. I think that's so gorgeous.
I can't believe I'm even saying that. I have become my own best friend. So I have got lots of beautiful friends from all different walks of life. Not a huge amount, I'd say. I've probably got 7 or 8 really close friends that I absolutely adore and treasure. And every year I like to try and get us all together, come round, have dinner at my house, or do something really nice for them, my treat. I like to treat my friends and look after people because I'm a nurturer. And that's what's important to me. But if any of those friends decided at some stage that our lives weren't working the same direction, or we were at different mindsets or just different places in our life, that's fine. I don't hold any attachment to anyone, because I've learned how to look after me and nurture me, and it's just such a gift, and we're all capable of doing it. So I suggest, if you know that you've got a lot of negative external influences, it's actually really nice going back to the analogy of using your journal. Your journal is so important, because sometimes you've got everything going on up here, but you don't actually have chance to sit down and air it out, and putting pen to paper is so, it's like therapy. It's like you are your own therapist. Writing down what experience and how people have made you feel, because that's really important. When people say, oh, that's my best friend, so I have to have them in my life, or that's my husband, so I have to let him abuse me because it is my husband. No, you don't.
Absolutely.
You don't. It doesn't, like you said, Diane, it doesn't make it all right. And I don't have to condition myself to having someone in my life who makes me feel like poo about myself, who makes me question myself, who doesn't allow me to have a point of view. you are your own best soundboard, because if I have someone in my life, a relationship, and no relationship's perfect, even your relationship with your children, with your animals, with your boss at work, it's all can be strained at times. But overall, if an energy comes into my life and overall they make me feel good and I can bounce from their energy and I bring something to their life, then I know that relationship is worth keeping. That's the truth. And if someone comes into my life and they make me feel disgruntled in some type of way continuously, and I know because I'll read my notebook at the end of the week and see, check in on myself, what situations have unfolded during the week, then I know that is toxic. It's not good for me. And it's stunting my growth as well. This is my journey. This is your journey at home. This is your journey. This is your life. We have choices of who we bring in. And sometimes it takes a lot of strength, but that long bye-bye wave is the most powerful thing you could ever do, because all it is taking up your energy and your time, and it's less time and energy you've got on spending on you and doing things that bring out the best in you, because we've all got wonderful imaginations and we're all filled of love, aren't we? We're all filled of love, and we stop loving ourselves because we allow all this. It's like a fungus.
And that's absolutely right. You saying there about stop loving yourself, isn't it? I think that people, everything, that is all fantastic and it's all so true, and learning to love yourself is the most important thing. But I think obviously what people really struggle with, particularly people with low self-esteem, is they can't fight the way out of that situation easily, can they?
No.
So when your self-esteem is very low, you are far more accepting of being stuck in a situation with somebody, whether that's your partner, your husband, relationships with your family, because you don't feel enough or think enough about yourself to say, do you know what? I love myself and I know I value myself, and that is not okay, so I'm going to remove myself from that. So I think that the starting point for a lot of people is like not the top sort of surface where they're thinking, I'm with this person, why am I staying with them? Why do I go through this cycle of behaviour, letting them back in my life, whether it's a best friend or the partner or whatever? And it really is for them to dig really deep, look at the self-esteem, score themselves on a rate of like 0 to 10, with 0 being very, very low self-esteem, and looking to work up to a 10, and thinking that, if I can self-care and I can do more things about cherishing me to make me feel good, build up that self-esteem. It sounds very simplistic, and with some people there's a lot of work to be done therapeutically or otherwise, but just focusing on the self-care of you, loving yourself, as Ampika says, spending time with the people that make you feel really, really good.
Yeah.
Because it's so much better, isn't it, to have, say, maybe 2 people in your life who you love and trust so much, rather than maybe 30 acquaintances that may or may not be loyal to you. And then obviously build up your self-esteem.
I would say as well, the first part of the journey it sounds very easy, sat here with Diane, do this, do that, do the other. And everyone, this is a journey, this is a process, whether it takes you 2 weeks, 2 years, or it takes you a lifetime.
Yeah.
The main thing is you address it, you can see it. Once you can see something, that means that you are looking out for yourself, right? Once I take stock of the situation that I'm in my life, and I can write down my notes, and I can analyse and see my behavioural patterns, how I'm feeling about myself, who is in my life and how they're making me feel. It's almost like you're on the first step, because the first step is being aware. You are being aware of you. And when you start becoming aware of you and you start understanding your behaviour, you can then start to implement little steps to start looking after yourself. Like I said, this is a journey, this is a process. If we walk around with our eyes closed and we're unaware, then that is where you are never going to make changes, because you are not aware. So whatever situation you are in, this will continuously happen. The same habitual patterns, the same behavioural patterns. You're in a rut that you are never going to get out of. So the first step is to be aware. You might be aware for a very long time before you start taking the actions to look after yourself, but you should actually be proud of yourself because you've got on the first rung of the ladder. You're actually aware.
Yeah, and I think the key thing is as well is that we are always changing, we are always developing. Always be kind to yourself, all of us, a work in progress. That's what we are every single day. Everybody has the ability to change and to do better, but we're all work in progress till the day we die, aren't we?
I just wanted to mention one thing as well, Diane, which is a massive, massive area that we're all guilty of, is social media.
Yes.
As much as we love it, as much as I'm on it, Diane's on it, spread the word of love and positivity. There's a lot of negative impacts and influences of looking at other people and getting involved in other people's lives and making comments and comparing yourself and thinking you're not good enough and beating yourself up. We've all been there, haven't we?
Yeah, I think social media is a week for Ampika and I to bring you into our lounge, and we'll talk about nothing but social media, because I think there's all the good stuff and there's the really destructive, difficult stuff where people are addicted to it, where people's self-esteem are affected, their whole lives are affected because of all the comparisons that they draw with that. The good aspects are fantastic, but the bad aspects, can drive people to a really dark place, and particularly I think that the younger generation as well. So I think that it will be great for us to spend a lot of time, if we can, focusing on that at some point, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, I say to myself, because I have to check in with myself a lot, that social media is not the be all and end all. I limit my time, and I've actually got, I'm sure you guys have got it too on your phones, where it shows you how productive you've been in terms of hours and minutes, in terms of reading, social media activity, doing emails, and I make sure that I do not spend more than 15 minutes a day on social media. I don't want to spend my time obsessing, looking at other people's lives, getting involved in other people's journeys. That's not my business. And I've got lots of friends that have posted lots of amazing stuff that they've done, and I feel awful because they probably think that I've not seen it or that I'm not interested. It's just the fact that I don't spend a lot of time trailing through my timeline, because we all get sucked into comparing. It's natural. We're human beings.
Yeah.
We absorb our environment, and if all we're seeing is these very slim, tanned, young, youthful people living this life, your brain gets contorted, because that's not real life. What's real to you is your situation, your family life, your work life, you and your own journey. Other people's journeys is fantastic and I applaud them, but we spend a lot of time getting busy and bothered. And I will never get busy and bothered because I'm spending time working on me. There's only so many hours in a day. If I spent more time looking and giving my energy to what other people are doing, then where the hell's the time for me? How am I going to get better myself? How am I going to be the best version of me? How am I going to find my inner peace? I'm not. The answer is I'm not. I've only got so many bars of energy a day, and if I give it all up to social media and other people's lives and getting busy on other people's journeys, that's taking time away from myself.
Absolutely, yeah. And also, as we both know, and everybody does, is that it's never quite as good as it seems. So when people look at other people's pictures or other people's lives and they imagine all sorts of things and how wonderful everybody's life is and the grass is always greener, it is seldomly ever like that, actually. And I think in my experience as well, the people that come and sit in front of me and share what they're going through, it becomes more apparent to me every single day how people's lives you may think are fantastic and they just really aren't.
Yeah.
They are dogged with their own troubles, the difficulties, the challenges, no matter what shape, size, colour they are.
Yeah.
It's irrespective of all of that. Everybody has their troubles, don't they?
I suppose what stimulates you as well. I mean, for me, I'm all about energy, and I don't think people give enough credit to how someone or something makes you feel. I don't look at, she's a size 8, so she's beautiful. Oh, she's size 20, so she's not. Quite the contrary. I follow Ashley Graham, who is a plus size supermodel, and I love watching her videos. I find her so invigorating. I find her energy absolutely so beautiful and vibrant. I'm like in awe of her. I love watching. Another contrast is Monty Don, who's on the BBC, who's got his gardening show. And I look at his pictures with his dogs, and that takes me to a really, really peaceful, beautiful, tranquil space. That's what turns me on. That's what influences me, is the energy. It's not about looking picture perfect. If you are born with fantastic genes and you can eat whatever you want and you've got the most amazing body with the most stunning face, hats off to you. That's not the real world. I'm bothered about the real world and the energy and the presence what you give. That's what's important. That's what I find is beautiful.
And the great thing about that as well is, of course, everybody can alter their own energy. No matter how you're born, what you look like, whatever, you have the opportunity through help and guidance. Obviously, partly what we're trying to do to help people is to actually reinvigorate that energy and help people learn to show that off more, and all those positive things, so that it doesn't matter what they look like, what size they are, what they're born into or not. That energy is everybody. It's there for everybody, isn't it, to enhance?
Very much so. So if I'd like to share some tips with you guys, I hope that we've talked about a subject that you could resonate with, that you're thinking, you know what, yeah, I need to sit down, get my journal out and work out who is in my life, close proximity, because all these people, all these external influences that we have all affect how we live our lives and how we feel about ourselves. And if you write down a list and you can say what someone makes you feel like most of the time, if you realise that that is a negative influence, do whatever you can with love, always with love, to distance yourself. You have a right in your life to be happy. You've got one life. We cannot live a rehearsal. So why put up with something that is serving no purpose in your life? It is hard. I realise that we've got very complicated situations and some more complex than others. But the first start of the journey is to be aware. And if you know that you're holding on to people by choice that have no positive benefits in your life, I'm sorry, sweetheart, they've just got to go. Do it for yourself. Have a spiritual cleanse. Do it for yourself and for everybody else around you. If you're happy, guess what? The world smiles with you. So that's the first step I would say. Get your journal out and analyse how you feel when you are with certain people. The second tip is limit the time you're on social media. Don't get busy with anybody else's journey, because you know what? The most important journey is your journey. This is what counts. This is your life. You can't live somebody else's life, and nor should you be that interested. Get busy in your own journey, working on you. What else would you say, Diane?
I would say, I think, always remember, and you can think about this in your own mind, always be with people that make you feel more than what you are, particularly with a partner that you might choose. Always be with somebody that makes you feel more than what you are. A bit like Ampika makes me feel.
And the last but not least, if you are in a very, very dark place and you're thinking, you know what, I've not got the strength, I can't do it, I just want to tell you that you can. This is a work in progress. It might take months, it might take years, but we're all on a journey. And if no one's told you today that you're freaking fabulous and that you're very much loved, we're going to tell you.
Definitely. You're fabulous.
And we love you. So I hope you've enjoyed the topics that we've touched on this week. If you've got something personal that you would like to share, discuss or talk about with us, please drop us an email on pikaboopeeps@gmail.com. Diane and I would love to hear from you. Tune in next week.
Bye.